this is an early preview of the Soul Rift Necromancer. It's all based off of basically this and the brand new Affliction. So how it works is Soul Rift does AoE damage, it's just constant AoE damage. We then also get to apply Affliction, which is enemies that are affected by vulnerable, crowd control, or shadow damage take 15x increased damage from us. Then our curse skills will apply shadow damage when you apply them to afflicted enemies, and then it gets increased by a certain amount, and the damage isn't really that bad. We have a pretty good amount, 186 here, and so basically what we do is we walk, and this is a really low tier one, so we can do some good damage. I'm going to activate our Arena of the Starless Skies by activating Shadow Blight, and basically this is kind of like the idea of the build. Now when we activate our Decrepify on a target that is afflicted, they'll basically instantly pop. There also seems to be a bug with Flicker Step. It doesn't always work with this ultimate. Could be because it's a brand new one. It works sometimes though, and I don't understand why it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. But the idea of this build was just to be like a walking simulator. You can see once we activate it, oh, there's a damage reduction guy, so we're gonna have to actually do damage. And we're playing the Sacrilegious Soul to automatically consume corpses. I only have one glyph leveled up to just the next node, so we still have to upgrade a bunch of glyphs. We have 0 100s right now. Just one of them is level 40, but the rest need to be upgraded so they get the bonus, legendary bonus here. So we still have a long ways to go for damage, but I figured I would just go ahead and show it off because it is a way newer build, and it's using two new things. We're using the brand new key passive, and we're using the brand new skill. We also happen to have a greater affix Harlequin. It's a legacy one, so it could be way better, but basically the goal is to have Harlequin just for the cooldown reduction. But it also gives us ranks to the skills, which also gives us more cooldown. But like I said, the Flicker Step doesn't always work properly. That's one area where this build can definitely get improvements. Also, if you're wondering why we play the minions, we have Blood Moon Breaches to automatically apply the curses, which gives us like a big damage. Because curses actually do damage in this build. I know we also have Tyrael, so it'll like shoot out the things, but the goal is to apply the curses, and when we apply the curses, they take damage. Whether that's our minions or us, it's kind of how the build works. You can see, like, Flicker Step didn't even work right there. Sometimes I was thinking that maybe we do too much DPS so the targets are dying before we can get it to activate, but look, it didn't even work right there. Look, I activated it again. Oh, it worked that time. So sometimes it doesn't seem to always work properly. We also have a cooldown reduction one. Also, Decrepify also reduces the cooldown. So what we could do with this build is just spam Decrepify after our ultimate's up. So we can just spam Decrepify. And you can play the build actually a couple different ways. Now, if it's really low tier content, then in theory, you could just make a Righteous Fire build, which is the original idea of it. But if you really want to min-max damage, you gotta activate Blight. You gotta activate your other bonuses. But you can see, we can still kill stuff. I mean, like I said, there's only tier 35, it's relatively low here. Keep in mind, they also reworked the difficulty in the game. And so we still need to upgrade a lot of these glyphs. I mean, you can see a lot of them. They got a ways to go. We don't even have... The next bonus is at 46 now, and then obviously it goes to 100. So the build could definitely get way, way stronger, but I figure I'd go ahead and show you guys kind of the ins and outs of it. But there are a few problems that I had with this build. Now, I want to go ahead and actually explain this real quick, because if anyone wants to build this, I plan to actually try to min-max this when the game actually comes out. The problem is that on PTR, it's kind of hard to make this build because it requires so much investment in cooldown. But on top of that, a lot of the Paragon nodes require a very specific thing. And for example, like Flesh Eater, you have to consume corpses, right? And I wanted the build to be super smooth, so I was thinking, okay, well, I'll just throw in Sacrilegious Soul, and that'll automatically consume the corpses, so I don't even have to apply that. Like, I wanted everything to be automated. Same thing with applying curses. The minions can now apply the curses, so then they can hopefully get the bonus of this. It does say your curse skills, assuming that the minions would activate your curses and it would count towards it. Hopefully this does work. But otherwise, you'd have to manually cast them. So if I made this build good enough for like a Righteous Fire playstyle of having to cast Blight, and then you also have to cast like a curse, I think that that's too much and that's too many steps, and at that point you might as well just play something else, because the goal of Righteous Fire is to be as smooth as possible. We definitely have a lot of areas for upgrades though, like we could definitely use a better thing than Fist of Fate here. Because attack speed and crit probably don't do anything for the build because we're running damage over time, but I don't know if the little souls that it spawns actually work with it. I'm going to go to the dummy over here just in case anyone wants to kind of understand how this build works. As far as I'm aware of though, it is damage over time, and you can actually run Shadow Blight. I was actually trying Shadow Blight as well. Another thing I was trying was getting more minions here. So more minions equals more damage because we have the skeletal mages. We can actually sacrifice the golem. We probably should have done that because I actually removed golem. But with this, we can get extra crit damage, or we can get extra life. That probably would be the best. Attack speed, we could use Shadow Blight, and technically with Decrepify, every single time we're casting a curse, it does work. But what I really liked with this build, and the reason why I wanted to build it, is if you read how good Soul Rift is, it seems so busted. So if we go to the skill here, and you can see how crazy this skill is. So for a set duration, we just deal damage, right? And then every 0.25, we get to absorb the souls, which gives us essence, which is resource, and then we also get barrier. And then on top of that, we get to absorb 3 souls each time from a boss. Then we also get to get up to 30x damage, and it persists up to 5 seconds after it ends. And on top of that, we automatically apply vulnerability. And then when you're damaging an enemy afflicted by Soul Rift, you have a chance to absorb their soul. So then we can get even more. So if we were to spawn in a bunch of like dummies over here, let's go to like the multiple training dummies. You can see kind of like how it can work. So the goal is to just keep on spamming. But like looking at the numbers, it's relatively low right now. Keep in mind we still have a lot of upgrades to go because the PTR doesn't really let you fully test it out. But you can see it's like 500,000 right now in terms of the dot. And right now, since they number crunched everything, it could be you know, a lot higher once we min-max the build. But I like the idea of this build being just something that automatically applies damage. You can also consider running Shadow Blight. That's something that I was thinking about doing too. I mean, we got a 490x damage over here for like the bonus of whatever damage that it's dealing. But if you look at it, like it does like 13,000 shadow damage, or it'll go to 9,000. Depends like what buffs we have up. But this one does 24,000. Well, it kind of fluctuates. We have 9,000 compared to 17. This one over here, Affliction, is double the amount of damage, and that's every single time. And remember, all of our minions have a 7% chance, and we have a current of what is that? Was that 14 minions? So we have 14 minions, each with a 7% chance to activate this bonus. That was like the idea and goal of the build, but I figured I'd give you guys a little like preview of it. If you guys have any suggestions for me, let me know. The other thing that I didn't really like with the build that made it feel a little bit more clunky, if I want to get more damage here with the build, like if I really wanted to go crazy with the damage, I would then activate my Shadow Blight to activate Ring of the Starless Skies. You can see we're almost at 1 million. Actually, that's like almost 2 million. Because remember, it takes 2 times per second. So we're at like, I saw a 900. So keep in mind, I still need to upgrade the glyphs, and I think once we upgrade the glyphs, this could be a really cool build. And I like it because look at this. We have so much barrier and fortification. Like, the build is incredibly tanky, potentially, if it could actually be good. I know we only have 4k life, but remember, every number got squished down. Like, looking at some of the stats over here, like, look at this. We went from 30 life over here to, like, now it's like 200. Before, we would used to get way, way more HP. Like, all the stats got squished. But anyways, that's the brand new Necromancer Ultimate, and there's like a little showcase demo of like what the build is supposed to do in terms of its playstyle. But if you guys have suggestions, let me know how we could actually play it. I actually added this like extra shadow damage over here, and then also we had an extra slot, so intercom, but we could probably run a lot better stuff. Another thing I wanted to mention, you can only temper on your things one time unless it's a greater affix, so we need to get like way more damage and stuff on a lot of the other ones. We could probably swap out this ring, but then we would have to manually cast the things to get the bonuses on it. But yeah, just looking for other suggestions how to make the build even stronger. Probably could also maybe look at getting more ranks to this for even more damage, because this is tied to its damage as well. So hopefully we can maybe get more ranks to Soul Rift, but that is the Soul Rift Necromancer build.